So my name is Chris Rogers. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at HYCU, and I look after our hybrid cloud estate. So that's everything from our virtualization platforms to physical machines to unstructured data, infrastructure as a service in public cloud, all of that kind of like infrastructure um, elements to your business. So today we're going to be talking about like modernizing hybrid cloud resilience in the AI era. I know everyone's going to think, oh, the AI buzzword and all that kind of thing, but it's kind of understanding kind of the infrastructure underneath AI and kind of how that falls together. So AI won't be mentioned much in here, but it's kind of like everyone's using all of the compute, all of this storage, all this data, and how do we make sure it's protected properly? So just um a quick piece on Haiku. So if you don't know who we are, um we're not a startup. We've been around for a little while now. We've got some of the biggest investors in the world and some strategic alliances with pretty much every single big infrastructure company you can see there, and some different ones as well. Over 5,000 customers now. This slightly outdated in, I think it might be even 80 countries now. And also you can see there protecting some of the biggest federal customers across the world as well. So kind of trusted and known about as well. And if we look at our data estate, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, kind of not a huge amount changed. So we had, the big on-premises boxes, no virtualization stack. And then we started moving into, virtualization and cloud and the start of like the SaaS ecosystem. And then SaaS really took off and public cloud really took off and people were adopting cloud native workloads and functions and serverless and all these things. And now when we look at today's world, we have more data spread across more systems and across more more places than ever before. We're looking at SaaS workloads, DBaaS, PaaS, IaaS, and still we have on-premise workloads as well, right? The power kind of the core of our businesses. And if we look at it like this, AI is the initiative, but the hybrid cloud is essentially the foundation. That's the kind of the core that powers all of this. And I want to kind of wanted to run this a little like a cake or like a layered that kind of approach. So kind of at the bottom we have this unstructured data, this massive data that your business has probably accumulated over years or if not decades, right? So everything that goes into file shares and the start of the object storage being used not just for backups, but being used for actual data and workloads. Then we've got lots of logs and audit trails, all these types of things. All that kind of data that is driving business intelligence sits in this unstructured layer. And then we have this virtualized and private cloud infrastructure services, right? So we have, and even public cloud infrastructure services as well. So we have Nutanix, VMware, Hyper-V, Azure, AWS, GCP, those kind of real compute engines driving applications, driving databases, driving all these different workloads as well. And then on top of that, we have the identity, the applications and business services, right? So identity management systems, the APIs that interconnect all these systems together, ops systems to keeping the lights on, keeping everyone um, in kind of in business, if you will. And then you have your line of business apps, whatever you're doing, whether that's an invoicing company, retail, healthcare, whatever it may be, you can have those specific line of business applications. And then collaboration suite as well. So things like email, Teams, all those types of things. All those things sit still in the hybrid cloud. Some of them sit into SaaS as well and kind of breach that area, but typically inside the hybrid clouds where most of these systems are going to sit. And then on top of that sits our AI and analytical services, right? So we've got our models, pipelines, our co-pilots, all our agents, our agentic workflows, all these types of things that we can't really go anywhere in technology without hearing about now. But all of that still relies on all the underlying pieces underneath it, right? What essentially I'm kind of trying to talk about here is AI stalls when hybrid infrastructure fails. And not just fails in terms of, something powers down or something gets deleted accidentally, but actually sometimes irrecoverably. So maybe from a cyber attack or, something wasn't backed up correctly or not recoverable in a right amount of time. And essentially recovery isn't about recovery now. It's about operational continuity and data survival. And that really is a concept that, I've been speaking to customers about for a little bit of while now. It's okay, what everyone is running these things not because they're fun to run or people enjoy looking after servers or like having petabytes of unstructured data around the place, right? They're running it because they have business initiatives that need the data, need the compute, need these services to be able to transform their organizations, whether that's into AI or into public cloud or into something different. These operational services and these business rely on all of these things. That continuity of service is really, really crucial. We're going halfway through, inference stage or a business intelligence stage, and something dies, and we have to start that again. It stalls. It gives people a bad taste in their mouth. And I don't know if anyone's seen kind of the recent reports about AI and how most AI projects fail in the inception stage, or very little value is being gained from AI projects worldwide. A lot of it is because they're not either not planned properly or don't have the understanding of how the kind of systems work underneath, right? So making sure they have all the layers in place, all the protection in place, so when something does fail, they can get it back up and running quickly. So then we talk about the threats that are kind of inside of our organization or outside of our organization, or things that can kind of hinder us on our way to this. I know, hopefully everyone has 100% uptime, right? Typically not going to happen, but we start off with the human error. Still happens day in, day out. I used to be a sysadmin myself. I've done my fair amount of fat fingering on the keyboard and unplugging the wrong cables and all those types of things. These things happen and will always happen as long as humans are in the world and are looking after systems. That's an unavoidable. Outages and failures. As we rely on public cloud services or outsourced services, these things are going to happen. Data center outages, power outages, hey, even things that we didn't expect in terms of like the geopolitical issues we're seeing now, right? Taking out data centers and those being strategic military targets, those things that were unfathomable going on 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now suddenly it's it's hitting home and people are realizing we need to have a plan for these types of things as well. Now we're looking at cyber attacks. When we started looking at cyber attacks 15 years ago, whatever it might have been, 20 years ago, we were taught, well, look for bad. Even actually a few years ago, the training that we got given was look for bad language, look for inconsistencies, look for generic language, look at those types of things for phishing emails, that type of stuff. Now with AI, right, we can hyper personalize emails. We can make sure English is perfect. We can even look up job roles and look up the last thing LinkedIn profiles and LinkedIn posts to see what they've been posting about and create like a super spear phishing attack for someone within seconds, right? It doesn't take hours and days to kind of capture the information and process it. It's within seconds. This information is available. AI assisted can send out a real clever email exactly to the person you want, who you think you're going to be able to breach. And then we start looking at kind of the newer risks. So supply chain, software outages, third party risk. We kind of know about this a little bit, but actually once we start looking at where our data comes from, where our data is stored, where our data is processed, these things start to become more and more kind of validated, and the risks increase and increase. So where I see this quite a lot is, from, if you can't tell, from England and in the UK. So a lot of companies like to keep their data inside the UK, the same in Germany and the EU, right? So they want to keep that. And typically they were looking at, okay, as long as it's inside of the geographical boundary of the UK, that's fine. That's sovereign for us. And now actually I'm starting to see the shift outwards to be like, actually, maybe we're looking at UK companies and maybe we're looking at where the data's processed, not just stored. So all these things start to come into play, and even into backup software and to where backups are stored. Typically, a lot of people were taking, backups from, as a service, taking up into a vendor owned environment. Now people are starting to second guess that. Okay, is that company a UK, EU, American? Where is that data stored? Where is it processed? Who's handling it? Who has control over that data? And then the two ones I find really fascinating is the in-app agents and agentic workflows. Going to revolutionize the way we do everything probably, but not, if we look that background to the human error things, I can only type I don't even know, 60 words a minute, whatever I can on my keyboard, right? An agent can disrupt, delete, misconfigure, corrupt data at the speed of AI. When I think about that, of how much damage I can do just from misconfiguring something on my router, my keyboard, my storage array, imagine now that across my whole hybrid cloud estate at the speed of what AI can do, right? Suddenly that, 100,000 calculations a millisecond from your GPU is sounding really great, but when it can make 100,000 mistakes in a millisecond, it's quite scary when you look at it. So we look at what modern hybrid cloud should deliver. right? This is my opinion. This is where I think we're going as organizations. Do more with less, less operational complexity. Simplifying the whole experience. So from protection through to recovery, fewer moving parts, fewer consoles, easy to administer. Almost like that Uber for for backup, right? Just it's super simple. You click the button, it does what it says it's going to do. There's no worrying about it. There's no kind of complex windows and wizards and you know APIs that you have to use, right? It's all just easy, simple to use dashboards, easily available, repeatable as well. Then move into the coverage piece, protecting every layer of the hybrid cloud, not just we're protecting our VMs, so we're covered, or we're doing database backup, so we're covered, or that team deals with that in a different way. Well, actually, are we sure that that team is dealing with it in the right way? Should we bring that all under one place and start to consolidate protection into a single uniform place, so we know the protection done is in the same way, the right way, consistently for every single workload in our stack? And then flexibility and control, kind of what I was speaking about a little bit earlier. The flexibility to be able to choose your own journey, if you will, and the control over your own data, the control over your own data destiny, if you will. Store that data, process it, and protect it in any way you want, rather than what's being, maybe pushed upon you, or what's best for the vendor, or what's best for your licensing schema. It's actually take the control back, store the backups where you want to store them. And if that's maybe in 2, 3, 4, 5 different regions, hey, your choice completely where you want to put that data. Make sure it's processed under your remit, under your control, and choose wisely, right? And also the flexibility to be able to pick that up and move it if you need to. We've had a lot of customers who come to us recently, with unfortunately what's happening in the Middle East, and saying, I stored my data in AWS or GCP or Azure or in a public cloud, or even in my own data centers in the Middle East in 2 regions. I actually need another copy outside of that region. Can you help me protect these workloads and move them somewhere else as well? Yeah, of course. That's what we're here for. That's why what we're trying to achieve. But giving that flexibility and control, and not saying, oh yeah, no problem. If you want that in another region, it's going to cost you X amount because that's our replication tier and need that. We don't want to be held to ransom just because we want to move data from one place to another. And then the obvious one is security and cyber resilience. Military grade security, making sure that you can lock down your control plane to the highest standard that you want to, right? Whether that's, your own standards, whether you're following something like a DISA STIG, which is an American secure technical implementation guide, or anywhere in between that, making sure you can take the steps you need to kind of secure that environment, and do it with ease as well. It shouldn't have to take you, 6 weeks to be able to secure your environment. And also have that cyber resilience capability as well. Can we scan backups? Can we mark them as immutable? Can we make sure they're ready to recover, clean, where you want them to? So that's kind of what I'm going to define as the modern hybrid cloud resilience, and kind of the goals we should be looking for. I'm sure there's loads of others and loads of things that I potentially missed off here, but the kind of like the 4 key things I wanted to get across with those 4 things. And then as we look at how HYCU can help us, right? So protecting the entire data estate, HYCU R-Cloud. So helping you discover and visualize your data estate if need be. So all the way across that hybrid cloud stack, right? We automatically look for applications inside of VMs, and it can automatically look at things that register into your identity management system to tell you which SaaS and public cloud services you're also running. Then protecting all those workloads with secure and bulletproof backups, and then rapidly recovering whole workloads or single entities from those workloads as well across the whole data estate. And if we kind of zoom in on that a little bit more, this is what the HYCU R-Cloud platform kind of delivers for you. Total protection across your entire data estate. So we're looking at, we're talking about hybrid cloud, so typically things like infrastructure services, unstructured data, but HYCU covers the whole stack. So we have an incredible coverage in that hybrid cloud area. So, I'm going to VMware, Nutanix, Hyper-V, Azure Local, Citrix Zen Server, Dell, NetApp. I've got a slide on in a sec about some of the coverage we have. But as you start moving up the stack, we've got incredible coverage across public cloud. We're the #1 SaaS data protection vendor in the world as well. And even into those AI and ML workloads that we were talking about earlier, that kind of all this stuff boils into, we can even protect them with some of those workloads as well. And then at the top, The total visibility, total protection, total recovery, and total freedom. Those are things we really, really pride ourselves on, giving you all of those things. And then when you look at our coverage in hybrid cloud, whether you're a big Nutanix shop or a VMware shop or Dell or NetApp, whatever it might be, we've got something for everybody, right? We've got a yes to pretty much every person's problems, because we cover such a wide range of solutions and vendor sets out there. We're the number one data protection vendor for Nutanix out there as well. We have a very, very deep relationship with Dell and Dell Data Domain, and all those things as well. But doesn't mean we don't cover the VMware's, the Hyper-Vs, the NetApp file shares, all across public cloud as well. And if we dive a little bit deeper into kind of those tiers that we spoke about earlier, so those four tiers. So the first one, that unstructured data protection, right? So we give that visibility into unstructured data across file and object, right? Automatically discover what's running in Nutanix objects, Dell ECS, S3, wherever else it might be running, and also into SMB, NFS, CIF shares as well. We purpose-built protection using the vendor APIs. So if it's a Nutanix files system, we use their API. If it's a Dell file system, we use the Dell APIs. If it's a NetApp, we use NetApp APIs, right? To make sure we're utilizing the best method for protection depending on what you're backing up. So rather than saying this is how we do every single NFS share exactly the same, we use the vendor specific APIs to make sure we mitigate any issues, or make it more efficient for everybody. Helping you support resilience and governance. So with RPO metrics, RTO, real-time RTO metrics, and again, making sure that we can back up things that are potentially petabytes in size, and making sure we give you governance and consistency and compliance across those. Then we start looking at the virtualization core. So automated VM protection, it's kind of a given for most things there. But actually, what we can do is dive into the virtual machines and see what applications are running inside them. So we're not going to go and treat every single VM as one unit. A SQL database needs to be protected differently to an Oracle or a SAP HANA or Exchange or Active Directory, right? So we can look inside those VMs for you, report back, and then we can tell you how to protect them best. Everything we do is policy driven. So you can have a single policy. From on the screen here, you've got the gold policy that I've created. So you can have a backup, a copy, an archive. You can enable fast restore. You can enable R-Shield scanning, which we're going to come on to in a moment. And you can enable tagging. We want to back up every hour and recover within 1 hour. You could assign every single file share you have, every single bucket, every single virtual machine, and every single application inside of there on that same policy, and HYCU can do everything for you. No jobs, no scheduling, nothing like that. No different policies depending on which workload. You can have a single policy for everything you have. And then we come on to that flexibility piece. Fast application consistency, granular recovery across all of that. So whether it's a single file, a single object from a bucket, or a whole VM or a whole application stack, you can recover that easily, and you can recover it to wherever you want to. So that could be a public cloud. So you could spin up into Azure, AWS, GCP. Or you could go cross hypervisor as well. So you could go between VMware and Nutanix Hyper-V, Hyper-V to VMware, whatever that kind of mesh looks like in your organization. We can help you support that flexibility piece as well. And then when we look at identity, IP, and applications, we have a full identity resilience suite. So across Active Directory, Entra ID, Okta, and even AWS IAM as well. So we can back up all of those and recover granularly from those places as well. Agentless application discovery, which I mentioned earlier, but going into each application and saying, this is an Exchange server. How do you want to deal with this? Do you want to truncate the logs? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Right? This is a SAP HANA database. We're going to treat it differently to an Exchange server. So giving you that intelligence. So if your organizations are going out and building infrastructure, building virtual machines, and you're responsible for protecting those, then you don't have to go and ask them the questions, right? We can find out for you how to protect that workload the best possible way, rather than it's just a VM. It's called DB01, but it might not be a database, right? That might be someone's initials. That might be something completely different. And actually, maybe it doesn't even need to be backed up, and we're now spending money on something we don't need to do. So giving that kind of insight into what's happening there. And then protect collaboration, identity, and applications, like kind of holistically as a whole stack, right? So whether that's 365, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, Exchange, Active Directory, Entra, Nutanix virtual machines, file shares, all of that into a single holistic stack for you, into a single place, into a single HYCU ecosystem, making it super simple, super easy. One policy potentially to rule them all, one policy for your SaaS workloads, one policy for your infrastructure workloads. Incredibly easy, incredibly simple to do. Then when we start looking at cyber resilience and security, so this is our HYCU R-Shield. You would have seen it on the previous slide on the kind of the platform view of the HYCU R-Cloud platform. This is kind of our built-in cyber resilience fabric. So this isn't a separate product or a separate SKU or a kind of a bolt-on item. This is woven into everything we do, all the way from product design into engineering, into feature sets, into all the things that we try and design for our customers. It's not about having a particular feature or a particular one item that makes up our shield. It's kind of everything we do is woven into it. So being kind of like the three circular pillars we have: so always protected, always observing, always ready. What do they really mean? We're always protected, protecting that whole stack, making sure we don't miss anything with that automatic application discovery, that visibility we can give you into the public cloud and SaaS applications as well, making sure everything you're running in your environment that you feel needs to be protected is protected. And then the always observing piece, we're looking at things like malware scanning, anomaly detection, and the always ready to recover, always ready to give you that data survival, operational continuity that we've been talking about. And just a little piece on our scanning technology. So for VMs and file shares now, rapid detection. And again, this kind of comes back to the sovereignty and flexibility piece that we spoke about earlier. We don't tie you into any storage vendor. You can go to any storage vendor you want. You can store into public cloud, into anywhere you like, right? Any NFS, SMB, S3 compatible storage, whatever, you name it, we can place data there and you can back it up to that. And our scanning still works there as well. I think that's a really, really key point, is that we don't tie you into a hardware appliance, or you have to land stuff into our cloud. We don't even have HYCU owned storage, right? So you choose where you want to put the data, and then we still scan that. It's all done inside of your own tenancy, inside of your own control. I think that's a really, really important piece there. So even if you're doing a direct to cloud architecture, you're backing up, let's say Nutanix, you're backing it straight up to AWS S3, we can still scan those workloads and tell you what's wrong, what's right with them, right? So we're using full YARA rule scanning and anomaly detection. We get a nice report that says anomaly detection was fine, no anomalies detected, and we scan these disks with these YARA rules, and there was no matches found. Therefore, we're marking it as clean. And then last of all, I wanted to kind of just do the secure by design piece. So if you go to the HYCU Trust Center, if you use whatever web browser or ChatGPT or whatever and type in the HYCU Trust Center, you'll be able to go into there, sign a mutual NDA, and we have every single kind of piece of information that you can want from a trust and governance point of view. So that's all of our certifications, all of our architecture, all of that kind of stuff is available for you to see there and open, and also third-party validated as well. So it's not just saying that we have SOC 2 and DISIS and common criteria, NIAP and ISO 27001, all these other things, externally validated, all up front, nothing hidden behind any walls or any or guarded anywhere. And then these four things here: data residency, run HYCU in your control, in your region, wherever you want it. Data governance, store the backups offsite, in your control, in your own storage all the time, whether that's SaaS, on-prem workloads, IaaS workloads, always inside your own storage, always inside your own tenancy, in your control. Always keeping control of that data, right? So no matter where it lives, no matter what happens to it, we can always bring a copy back down into our own environment, into our own tenancy, in our control. And you can see I've got a theme here about control and tenancies, and because sovereignty isn't just about geography anymore. It's also about the organizations who's processing and storing as well. And then we're Gov trusted, as I mentioned really, really early in the presentation, trusted by federal organizations around the world as well. So thank you for your time today. Hopefully it's been a little bit insightful for you, and you've kind of gleaned a little bit of what HYCU could do for you in terms of the hybrid cloud and how we can help. If there are any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. But thank you for your time. I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter than than ones then, give people a bit of time back for themselves. So I appreciate everybody. There's a few QR codes on the screen you can see here. So there's a demo request on the screen there. So if you want to run that one as a solution brief, so Nutanix and HYCU got a very rich history with Nutanix. So if anyone is running Nutanix or thinking about running Nutanix, check out the solution brief of what we can do there. And then anything else, look at our marketplace. We have an extensive marketplace, over 100 integrations with various different technologies, and from public cloud to SaaS to AI workloads to infrastructure. Have a flick through the marketplace. You'll probably find something that you didn't realize you needed to protect in there. Obviously, through there you can then reach out to the team and find demos and find pricing and all that kind of stuff that you would need any more information on. There is a poll that's just popped up on the screen if you haven't seen it. So if you do want to schedule a demo, pop your answer onto the poll, and we'll get one of the team to reach out to you to kind of discuss your requirements and what you'd like to see from a demo. But I don't think there's any questions I can see. Just I'll pop the Q&A open. So no questions today. So thank you everyone for your time and kind of attention. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much for your time. Bye bye.